might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break.
All right, here we go.
I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Give me all you got and don't hold it back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, tell you now. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. I said, because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Bring me down, can't none bring me down. Your love is too high.
1 minute, everybody. We'll be getting started.
Bring me down, I said. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
Good morning, Wolfpack, and welcome to your 8 a.m. reminder that it is no longer February. We are March 1st, 2024, and we're kicking off this March the right way with a special advisory. We've been talking about this for weeks. I am so excited to welcome to our advisory soon Dr. Christopher Gardner from Stanford and the Netflix series that we have talked about. Super excited as we are going to get to do a couple things. We're again going to get to hear from him at the beginning about his work, his research, some of the things from his perspective. And then we've got a whole list of questions from our students that our students will be presenting and getting some more information on. And again, super excited. We received over 70 questions from our advisory and about an equal split between nutrition and wellness questions and science, how do I do research questions, which was super awesome to see from our students. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and cue up Dr. Christopher Gardner here to introduce himself and his work. And then in roughly just a few minutes, we'll get it kicked off with some questions. Whenever you are ready, Dr. Gardner, you can go ahead and talk a little bit
Oh, that
about.
was it. Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Yeah, there you go. We're ready to roll.
I thought there was maybe something a little bit more. Good morning. Really fun to be here. Want you to know that I'm here because of Devinder, who I worked with at Stanford many years ago, who's very welcoming. Okay, quick background about myself. So I was a philosophy major in college, which was really fun, but I don't know what kind of job you can get with philosophy other than being a barista or being a restaurant waiter. And so actually that's what I did. I waited tables and worked in a lot of restaurants. And there was a girl involved, and I lived in New England and she moved to California. And I moved out to be with her and she dumped me. And she was a vegetarian. I thought, oh, she dumped me because I'm not a vegetarian. I think I'll be a vegetarian to get her back. Well, it didn't work. I didn't get her back. But I actually really liked being a vegetarian and realized that it sort of aligned with my personal philosophy of, oh, the good and happiness and be nice to animals and things like that. And I'd worked in a ton of restaurants. And I thought, oh, well, then maybe I'll have a vegetarian restaurant. But I'm pretty sure people are going to make fun of my protein. They're always asking me, oh, so how do you get enough protein? And I thought, well, maybe if I got a graduate degree, I would have an articulate response about amino acids and bodily needs and things like that. And I ended up getting a PhD by mistake. I never opened a restaurant. I got a faculty job at Stanford. I got millions of dollars of your parents' taxpayer dollars to conduct studies, feeding and bleeding people to see if, oh, if I fed them this, would that happen to them? And that's kind of what I've been doing for many, many years. I came to Stanford in 93. So this is now my 31st year at Stanford. And the really fun thing at Stanford, just for the broad overview, because I think that's what I'm supposed to give here, is it's really a never ending topic, health and food and nutrition. Lots of controversies about it. There's always a fad diet going around and everybody says, oh, the stuff that we knew for 50 years is wrong and you should do the opposite. And it's in the newspaper and it's controversial. And so there's always some research question for me to ask. And the most fun thing for me in the last decade has been recognizing, having the humility to understand that my field of nutrition, where I understand proteins, carbs, fats, vitamins, minerals, I understand biochemistry, I understand how to do a randomized controlled trial, I understand how to get that kind of thing published. At the end of the day, I can sometimes say, look, I have the scientific evidence to back this up. What are you going to do? And he said, well, culturally, that's not appropriate for me. Economically, I can't buy that. Time-wise, I don't have time to cook. So thanks for your lecture. Never mind. And so it's been really fun for me to partner with other colleagues at campus in the field of business or law, education, engineering, design. And my most fun colleagues actually come from the CIA. Did you know that I'm a scientific advisor for the CIA? Yep, the Culinary Institute of America, not the Pentagon CIA, you know, the one with chefs and stuff. And so I've been working with chefs on this concept of unapologetic deliciousness, because one of the things that really drives people's eating behaviors is joy and pleasure of taste. That's how come I know Devinder. That was his thing. He was bringing joy and pleasure and variety and all kinds of other things tied to that. And so it was really fun. I have to explain why unapologetic deliciousness resonates, especially with me as a health professional. I can't tell you how many years I would say, look, I just did this very cool study. I isolated a nutrient. I found it's in cardboard. It has a lot of fiber. I want you to eat a lot of fiber. And I know you're going to have this other really fun dessert or cake or cookie or something, but you should eat what I want to eat. And I'm sorry it doesn't taste as good. And I'm sorry it's not as much. And my face would scrunch up like I'm apologizing, telling you to eat this scientifically valid thing. And Greg Drescher from the Culinary Institute of America came up with this phrase, unapologetic deliciousness. And he kind of scolded me and he said, Christopher, why are you scrunching up your face and apologizing? We're chefs. We can make almost anything taste really good, including healthy food. And a big issue that we have in the US right now is that Americans have disaggregated health and taste. They said, oh, I want the tasty thing, not the healthy thing. Wait, why can't it be tasty and healthy? So if you're working with people who are, aware of cultural appropriateness and diversity and global cuisine and things like that, there's so many fabulous tasting things that you can have that are healthy. And now that there's now I work with a lot of young people at Stanford, obviously, and we're really starting to recognize the connections between agriculture and the environment. And so now I've got a whole nother discipline to pull into this. So if you really want to manage land and water usefully and prevent eutrophication from nitrogen and phosphorus runoff from excessive fertilization, if you want to protect biodiversity and not chop down the rainforest so that you can grow soy, so you have feed for livestock, if you want to cut back on greenhouse gas emissions, it all kind of revolves around a plant-based diet at the end. And I'm going to use that very judiciously, not plant exclusive. I personally follow a vegan diet, and I have for decades, but plant-based is much more welcoming. A lot more people could fit under the umbrella there. Fish is pretty good for you. Yogurt's good for you. There's a good reason to have eggs. But we eat a lot of crap. We eat a lot of refined grain, added sugar, processed meat grown in concentrated animal feeding operations. And a lot of that is not fair to the agricultural workers and the livestock workers. People who work in slaughterhouses, it's the most dangerous job in the world. People working in the agricultural fields are getting sprayed on from pesticides to grow conventional crops. So it's really, my job is so much fun because it just keeps expanding in different directions. And I get to work with so many different kinds of people. And there's so many really existential crises going on right now that food could play a role in. So I hope in a little interlude with you all this morning, I can inspire some of you to go into the world of nutrition science and food.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Gardner. I think you're going to be really impressed with some of the questions that the kids have come up with. They are super excited to hear about your research methods as well as some of the findings from your research already. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to our first student who is going to be reading the first question out. So go ahead, Ms. Salas, you can go ahead and unmute and we can have our first student read the question.
Hi, good morning. I am Guadalupe Zamora. I am a 10th grader, and it is a true honor to have the opportunity to talk with you as a reader. And the question that I have for you is, why do you want to continue your research for over 20 years?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I actually got my PhD in 1993, and I met this old Italian nutrition guy, and I was going to work in an area near him, and he said, congratulations on getting your PhD. It's too bad we now know everything and there's nothing left to learn. I thought, that can't be true. I have a PhD. No, I spent all this time. There must be more questions. In essence, he was right. Like, we had figured out all the things about proteins, carbs, and fats, vitamins, and minerals. And really, there was a lot of evidence to back up a plant-based diet way back then in 1993. But then there was gluten intolerance, and there was plant-based milk. And then there were all kinds of fascinating companies creating change in food, creating new lines of products, and a never-ending set of new questions and new partners. So the reason I continue to do this is it's always fun. There's always something that people are confused about, and I can help. I feel like that's my job. I can apply science to it, and I pull in my philosophy, and I try to be pretty open-minded about it and say, look, I realize you're not just making choices because of the scientific study that I did. It's culture and taste and joy and pleasure and economics and things like that. So it's sort of a never-ending challenge, and it applies to everyone. As far as I know, everyone eats. And so it's pretty cool to be working in a field that's relevant to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you for that response, Dr. Gardner. And Guadalupe, thank you for your question. Ms. Sauce, we can go ahead and move on to question number 2. Really excited to get this one kicked off and to see for many of us how we are going to be making decisions from this on your guidance. Go ahead, next student.
Good morning, Dr. Gardner. As someone also interested in graduate education, I find it really exciting to have you here. My question for you is, what's the most effective way to choose a diet for someone?
Oh, it's a great question. And I will say that I have studied a lot of diets. And the first place to start is there isn't any one diet for everyone. So it's not like in science, we would figure it out. Oh my God, everybody should eat the same breakfast, lunch, dinner every day, right? Cultural issues and all kinds of things like that. So there's a couple pretty essential principles here. One, the best diet for you is one that you can maintain forever. So I'm pretty sad that in the US, the word diet typically means something you will go on temporarily to lose weight and then you will go off. Well, that doesn't work. So if you've changed from an omnivorous diet to a vegetarian diet or a Mediterranean diet or a Middle Eastern diet, or if you go on some of these ridiculous diets that are, oh, don't eat any of that forever and don't eat any of this and only eat this. Humans are pretty resilient and they can actually do anything for a couple of months at a time. Like if you're trying to lose weight or bulk up on something, but they have a hard time maintaining unrealistic changes. So I get a little sad when I see people trying to follow an extreme diet that isn't in their economic wheelhouse. It's not culturally appropriate. It's not something else. And they get some benefit from it, but they can't maintain it. And really the best diet for you is going to be one that you can maintain for life. Now, I hope that isn't just cookies and chips and candy, because you can't maintain that for life. But I'm thinking, if you are thinking about an Asian or a Mediterranean or a Middle Eastern or a Latin American or a vegetarian or a vegan, make sure that you can do it forever. Because if you're just going to do it short term, whatever benefits you might have experienced will go away when you go off the diet. So I think Americans don't do a very good job of using the term diet in that way. I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thank you for that response, Dr. Gardner. And I do think you hit on something we've been talking about all year at the Wolfpack, which is how do we maintain changes in ourselves? So we've been reading a lot of research around why people give up on changing, why people are able to stick with changing and looking at those habits. Thank you, Stu. We're going to go ahead and move on to question 3. We've got a lot of athletes on campus, and their concern is sort of how your research might connect to being an athlete and being in strength training. So next student, go ahead and launch us with the next question.
Hi, my name is Jessica Braza, and my question is, what do you believe is the most successful diet for developing muscle?
Hi, Jessica. Good question. And again, there isn't any one diet. I'm almost going to answer that in reverse. So what I see in student athletes and athletes all over the place is they're obsessed with protein. Like, oh my God, if I'm going to build muscle and if I'm going to be strong, I'm going to need a lot of protein. And we just finished one study and we're in the middle of another one where we had a bunch of student athletes do a vegan diet or an omnivorous diet and try some of the plant-based alternative meats and lift and run and see what happens if they change their diet. And even when they went vegan, they ran just as fast and they lifted just as much weight. Really, the most important thing is variety in the diet, that you're getting a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients and enough calories. So athletes burn more calories. I'm sad when they're popping a bunch of protein shakes and protein pills and protein powder and something else and having 3 chicken breasts. When they're doing that, they're actually moving a lot of fiber out of their diet. So plant-based diets don't have as much protein, but they have enough protein. And there's some myths out there that plants are missing amino acids. Have you all heard that quinoa is the only plant with all 9 essential amino acids? That's BS. I'll show you a map. All plants have all 20 amino acids. The proportions of amino acids are better in animal foods like meat, but that only is a problem if you're just barely meeting your protein requirement. Most people greatly exceed their protein requirement if they're getting a reasonable amount of variety and if they're getting enough calories for the day. I want to end on this note for this question with Stu Phillips. He's an exercise physiologist from McMaster University. We've done a podcast together, so look for the protein debate on Simon Hill with Gardner and Phillips. And it looked like we disagreed on a bunch of things until we got on the podcast, and it turned out we agreed on almost everything. And one of his main points is, for people working out, more than 90% of the impact on your workout and your strength, etc., is working out. It's the physical working out. It's the bench pressing. It's the running. It's the training. He said it's less than 10% protein. So if you just get a good variety of diet, yes, get some protein sources, but make sure you get fiber and plants and variety and vitamins and minerals and not quick fixes. Sorry, a little tangent there is once in a while there's room for sugar in physical activity because you have a window after your workout of about 30 minutes when that's actually a pretty good time to get something like chocolate milk or get a little sugar into your cells. So if you're working out intensively, there's a little room for sugar in there. But mostly, it should just be a plant-based, reasonably variety-filled diet for athletes.
Awesome. Thank you for that response, Dr. Gardner. As we're transitioning to the next question, you said variety in food, but I bet that does not mean like I'm going to eat a red bag of Takis for breakfast, I'm going to eat a purple bag of Takis for lunch, and then I'm going to eat a green bag of Takis for my snack, right? You mean variety in terms of like the different food groups.
Thank you very much. And yeah, so one of the, a little metric that some people have is eating 30 different kinds of plants a week. Some nuts and seeds and vegetables and beans and cruciferous vegetables and something else. So that's kind of a nice marker if you can get 30 different kinds of plants in your diet a week.
Awesome.
Not a day, but a week.
A week. That's cool to think about. All right, Stu, we've got our next one, which I know all of us here at the Wolfpack are really excited to hear about. Let's go ahead and kick off question number 4.
Hi, good morning. My name is Celeste Nunez, and my question for you today is, what effect does eating too much spicy food have on the body?
Oh, this one is not particularly in my wheelhouse, other than spicy food is fun. Food needs to be fun. But I come from New England, where people don't handle spicy food very well. And sometimes just a small amount of heat in their food, not temperature heat, but spice heat. Their mouth is inflamed. They can't taste anything anymore. They're running for the water bucket. Oh my God. But spices have lots of antioxidants and things in them. Turmeric, cumin, oh God, all the different Mediterranean, Latin American, Asian spices. And they make food so much fun and personalized. So what effect does it have on the body? I do want to say that I find it a little odd sometimes when I hear all the hype for something. Turmeric is a great example. There's a molecule called curcumin in turmeric. And I have a jar of turmeric. I love turmeric. I cook multiple things with turmeric, but I only refill that bottle like once every 2 or 3 months. Like, how much turmeric can I get in a day? So I see people eating supplements of turmeric. I'm not really a fan of supplements of spices. I think we should spice our food. It's so much more fun when it's spicy. And then you can dial it up or down to whatever you want. In terms of how does it affect your body? Well, it's kind of interesting that our stomach has a very low acidic pH, and even really heat-oriented stuff kind of gets neutralized in the stomach. By the time we absorb it all, it might have been really spicy in our mouth. I think it's much more for taste and enjoying your food than for actual impact on the body, because the spices and the heat, we really don't have much, like a teaspoon. Like, I'm making a recipe with a teaspoon or tablespoon, but it made 8 servings. I'm not really getting all that much quantitatively. So good for antioxidants, good for pleasure and joy, unless you've overspiced it, and then it ruins your meal. Have fun with spices. Enjoy them.
Awesome. Thank you for that response, Dr. Gardner. I'm from Pennsylvania originally, so I also do not do well with spices. Students, if you would like to see a reaction, feel free to ask Ms. Julie about her discussion with me and spicy food at any point. We're moving on to the next one, and we all know that Listen, a lot of this is around cooking at home, which I know was a big part of the Netflix series, but for many Americans, it's difficult to always be able to cook a fresh meal at home with, working jobs, multiple jobs, transportation. And our next student question is really going to hit on the access to healthy food in America.
Hi.
Good morning. My name is Ricardo Aguilar Montiveros. My question is, what is the healthiest fast food?
Right. So great question. That's a pretty broad term. So fast food. So what does that mean to everybody? The wolf pack right now. Does that mean McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut? Is that what fast food means? Or are you really just talking about quick food? So the other thing about all those places, it's very inexpensive. In many different ways, we looked at the whole food system behind that. Some of the livestock feed is subsidized. Some of the cattle are subsidized. There's all kinds of price breaks along the way. And it's a little unfortunate that some of the fast food is so not only quick, but inexpensive. So quick and inexpensive makes it really attractive to people, right? I don't have much money and I don't have much time. So a way to tweak that is maybe to be thinking of sort of a new line of restaurants that are relatively fast food, and it's called fast casual. So Chipotle would be one of those. Panera would be one of those. They're a little more expensive than McDonald's or Wendy's or Burger King or things like that, but they put more thought into it. And a quick example that I think has been really popular is bowls. So instead of having a burrito, get rid of tortilla, which, by the way, right, in America, in Latin America, you'd have a corn tortilla that you made with masa, and it would be small. And in the US, you'd have this enormous wheat flour tortilla that you would stuff with the filling. Get rid of the tortilla. That was like a bowl. It was physically like a fork or a bowl. It was holding the guts. Put it in a bowl and go to Chipotle and just ask for the bowl and ask for the sauteed veggies and ask for the sofrita, have black beans on it, have brown rice on it, plenty of heat and spice with all the salsas they have. So there's actually a lot of restaurants that now have fairly quick options that are fast. And I think bowls is one of the best example. And nice thing about bowls is you can tailor it to yourself. I like these fast food places where you can tailor the amounts and the things that you put on it. So it can be tastiest for you, but you do have to pick the great tasting and healthier options, because you could put some of the worst options in the largest amount. So I would say for fast food, look out. There's sort of this slightly higher price, but pretty convenient and fairly low priced, fast, casual line of restaurants out there.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Gardner. And as we're transitioning to our next student, I'm going to remind everybody that one of the luckiest things we do have on our campus is Chef Devinder and Harvest Hall. I can tell you from being in schools for 2-3 decades at this point now that the food we are getting is there. And we have a Latin Bowl station, y'all. So if you're coming through and you're not making a swing through that Latin Bowl station, that's where you get those grains, the veggies that are sauteed in a healthy protein option. So if you're looking to spread out and make some changes that little bit day by day, every once in a while, that Latin Bowl might be the thing for it. Dr. Gardner, our next student question is going to be around ages and eating healthy particularly. And so I'm going to go and kick it off to Christian DeLuna for that next question.
Well, no need for introduction. Deflitch did that for me already. Yeah, my name is Christian DeLuna, and I feel like what you're doing is really good, as we do have a big problem of obesity here in the US. But like Deflitch said, the question is about ages, and it is, do you feel it is necessary to start children early on a plant-based diet, or is this something adults would see better results from?
Yeah, absolutely, kids. So one of the issues in food is establishing habits that last for your life. So pretty hard if you got raised as a child and then an adolescent and then a college student, and then we let you go into life as an adult and you've been eating this way for 20 years, and then they say, okay, now eat healthy. It's like, oh, those are not the tastes I'm familiar with. But you can see, I mean, so I have 4 boys who eat a lot of vegetables, and they've eaten vegetables and beans and plants their whole life, and we'll have kids over. Actually, the youngest one is now a sophomore in high school, but the oldest one's 32. So many days when kids would come over, you know, to visit, to watch TV, to play video games or something, and we put stuff on the table, and they'd look at it like, what is that? Well, that's a vegetable. That's a salad. That's, you know, some fresh fruit. Don't you have any taquitos, or don't you have any kind of snack, spicy thing? And my kids would gobble it up, and they would look at it like it was really weird. If you don't start early, I think those habits are really hard to break later. So is there a concern that kids are growing? Kids need especially good nutrition because they're not only maintaining their weight, they're growing. And so can you get enough calories? Can you get enough protein, et cetera, on plants? Yes. You can't get it if the plants are soda and refined white flour. That is not enough. And there's plenty of plant food out there that really doesn't have calories or nutrients in it. But again, if you can find some really simple things that are nuts, beans, seeds, veggies, and take advantage of cultural snacks from all those and meals from all those different cultures, it would be pretty easy to be plant-based and raise a kid healthy. I have 4 kids, 16 to 32, that are all plant-based, and they're all appropriate height, and they all play sports, and they're all just fine.
Awesome. Thank you for that response, Dr. Gardner, and you know, especially providing that personal aspect of the story about with your own kids. Next, kids were asking a lot about what we're going to come up in this question is really thinking about the long term, you know, 20, 30 years spent in here and really thinking about where this will end at some point. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to our next student for this next question. We got 2 more student questions on the way. So go ahead. I think we're ready to kick it off. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Gardner. My name is Samantha Labrada, and my question is, what do you believe is the greatest good that comes from this research?
Oh, well, the greatest good is, so we have in the world of health, human health, which is what I'm most interested in, we have shifted over the last century or so from being plagued with infectious diseases that we don't see that many of anymore, to chronic diseases. So chronic diseases, of the top 6 causes of death in the US, 4 of them are directly related to diet. And that would be heart disease, stroke, cancer, and diabetes. And a lot of underpinnings of all that is excess weight or obesity. And so it's shifted from having sort of not enough nutrients, and we need to find the minimal number of vitamins and minerals that are good for preventing infectious diseases. Oh my God, we get too much sugar, too much salt, too many calories, too much saturated fat. So the greatest good is that we will not only add years to life so that they won't die. You have to die of something. So I guess eventually it's okay if you die of cancer, heart disease, if you're 100, but not if you're 50. I know lots of people dying prematurely of those diseases. And so the nice thing about the greatest good that you're asking for is if we did that, we would also be addressing the planetary existential crisis of all these planetary boundaries we're exceeding. Greenhouse gases, the land use, water use, eutrophication, and biodiversity loss. So if we get this right, and we really do need to get it right, not only will we add years to life, but life to years. I have a lot of friends who say it's not just living longer. We actually have drugs and devices and things to help you live longer. Don't you want to live longer vibrantly and be vital, not on pills and drugs and procedures? So eating better will make us sort of more physically active, longer in life. Our healthcare system is crippling our budget. So let's not spend so much money treating diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and stroke, and let's save the planet. So just that, it would do that. That's all it would do. Is that enough? That's probably enough.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you, Dr. Gardner. We're going to switch over to our final student question. But one thing I did hear from that question that I want to kind of make aware with our students is that, you know, eating good is sort of a systematic level of change. That if the more people who are eating plant-based diet, the more people who are balancing nutrition, the more people are doing these things, it's going to impact healthcare, it's going to impact agriculture, it's going to impact multiple industries that might benefit our country and planet, is what I'm hearing from you, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a system level issue. So there's a quote from John Muir that if you tug on something enough, you find out it's connected to everything. That is super true with food. It's the labor force producing it. It's the economics. It's the healthcare system. It would really have a tremendous impact.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And our final question, Mr. Isaac Medina, you're going to go ahead and launch us off. And I know this again is going back to our athletes on campus and out and about in the community.
Ready.
Hi, Dr. Gardner. My name is Isaac Medina. So my question is, what effect does diet have on recovery from sports or an injury?
Oh, yeah. Well, and not just sports recovery, but any kind of surgical recovery, anything like that. Yeah, you have to, if you're going to get some repair, that all has to be there. So maybe a separate question is just, I worked out really hard and I just want to recover for tomorrow, right? Because if you've worked out really hard, you're sore. Maybe not right away, you're kind of sore the next day. So interestingly, yeah, I have some friends who are super athletes and they pretty much just eat a balanced diet. But again, there is that recovery window when, contrary to many other times, something as simple as chocolate milk in that window is interestingly effective. There's a lot of stuff that you can pay extra money for, this electrolyte thing and this special Gatorade and this other thing. And I've seen some simple studies that say, dude, just have some chocolate milk after. It's got some proteins and carbs. It's got some sugar in it. The chocolate milk tastes pretty good. Don't overdo it because, in other times, chocolate milk should be dessert, not nutritional support. But yeah, for recovery for sports, if you've worked out really hard, you can cut yourself a little slack and have some sugar in there and get a little protein in there, be a little more conscious of that. But if you're eating well overall over day, that's the best way to support an athlete, not just that recovery window.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Gardner. I'll remind everybody that we do have special chocolate milk on Fridays here. So again, think about that in terms of when you are exercising and working out. Maybe Friday morning's a good time to get up a little bit earlier and go for a run or something as well before you get to campus. All right, so that concludes our student questions. But one of the final questions I have sort of came about from talking with staff and students on campus, Dr. Gardner, and this one is, and students, I'm going to explain the word vilify. So vilify is when you sort of make somebody feel like a villain or make somebody feel like a bad person or a bad human being. So Dr. Gardner, in your years of experience, how do you talk to people to try to encourage them or try to talk to people about these things without necessarily vilifying them for the diet they are currently eating or how they currently feel or think about food?
Yeah, that certainly comes up a lot. The term diet police comes up a lot. Oh my God, I don't even want to talk to you, Professor Gardner, because you're the diet police. It's like, come on, everybody has to eat. Everybody has a different economic background, cultural background. We have never found one diet that works for everyone. Plus, so I am a nutrition scientist. I'm all for health, but I know that if we just feed people foods that are only healthy every day, they kind of lose it. One of my good friends is a chef, and she has an 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule is 80% of the time she does a good job, and 20% of the time she has fun. She goes a little rogue. She has a treat for herself. She tries a new food that she wouldn't have tried otherwise. And so if you see somebody eating something, don't vilify him for that. Maybe I could close with this particular, there's a book called How the Other Half Eats. What is it? Yeah, How the Other Half Eats. So let's end on this one right here. So Priya Fielding Singh wrote this book, How the Other Half Eats. And she interviewed parents of children. And she got Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. She got low, middle, and high income people. And I'm going to oversimplify this, but she went to some of the higher educated folks and the ones with more resources and said, okay, so what happens when you when the kid wants to go to Disneyland? I say yes. When they want a new bike, I say yes. When they want this expensive thing, I say yes. When they want a Coke, I say no. I love my child and I say they can't have a Coke. And then she interviewed some of the folks with fewer resources and said, what do you say when they want to go to Disneyland? No. When they want a new bike? No. When they want this other thing? No. When they want a Coke? I say yes. I can give them a Coke right then. Why do you do that? Because I love them and I want to be able to say yes and give them something that brings them joy right then. So, right, even a Coke, if you put it in that context, think, oh, wow, what, you're a mom that doesn't care about your kids. Oh my God, I love my kids and I love them in different ways. And today I love them by getting them a Coke or a donut. So no vilifying. You have to understand the whole situation that went into that choice. I hope that's a helpful example.
Yes, very much. Thank you for that. That definitely is helpful. I think we're good to close out, Dr. Gardner. Students, if you could, in your advisory, go ahead. Let's give them a round of applause for joining us on this Friday morning. Woohoo! Thank you, Dr. Gardner, for coming by. We know that you are an extremely busy person, and we, again, just want to continue celebrating your work and the impact it's having. Obviously, you know, just that Netflix special itself has already reached the 1,000+ people here on this campus, and hopefully we'll make some change for the good as we collaborate and work together for the future.
Thanks, Brenton and Devinder. Go Wolfpack!
Go Wolfpack! Thank you, Dr. Gardner. Wolfpack, we're going to get started for our day in just 4 minutes. Thank you, Dr. Gardner. All right, everybody. Remember, rise up, reach out, be heroic. Today is your day, and as always, I love you and care about y'all. So with that, let's have an amazing and beautiful Friday.